The restaurant lights were still warm behind him, glowing like a promise that had already been broken. Snow fell heavier with every second, quiet and unforgiving, just like the empty chair across from him. That was when he heard the sound that didn't belong in a perfect winter evening, a woman crying. He checked his phone for the fourth time, thumb hovering over the screen as if the right angle might magically change the truth. No new messages. No missed calls. Just the same last text from an hour ago. "I'm on my way," smiling face with smiling eyes. Ethan exhaled slowly, the breath turning white in the freezing air. He sat alone at the small outdoor cafe table, a place he had chosen carefully. Fairy lights hung above, casting a soft glow over untouched plates and a candle that flickered like it was losing hope too. Couples passed by, laughing, shoulders pressed together, their happiness sharp enough to sting. This was supposed to be his dream date. He hadn't dated in over a year, not since life taught him how quickly things could fall apart. Tonight wasn't just dinner. It was courage. It was risk. It was him finally believing that maybe, just maybe, something good could start again. And she hadn't shown up. The waiter came by gently. "Would you like to order, sir?" Ethan forced a smile. "I'll wait a few more minutes." The waiter nodded, already knowing the ending. They always did. Another 10 minutes passed. The candle burned lower. Snow gathered on the empty chair across from him like it was settling in for the night. Ethan finally stood, pulling his coat tighter around himself. He felt foolish, for dressing up, for hoping, for imagining how the night might go. He dropped a few bills on the table and turned to leave. That's when he heard it again. A sob. Not the quiet kind people hide. This one cracked, raw, desperate, breaking under its own weight. Ethan stopped. Across the street, near a bus stop half buried in snow, a woman sat on the frozen bench, hunched over. She clutched something close to her chest, rocking back and forth as tears streamed down her face. Snow clung to her hair, her coat, her shoulders, like the world itself was trying to bury her. Most people walked past. Some glanced. None stopped. Ethan hesitated. "It's not your business," a voice in his head whispered. "You've had enough disappointment tonight." He took one step, then another. As he crossed the street, the cold seeped through his shoes, but he barely noticed. Up close, he could see the woman was younger than he first thought, late 20s maybe. Her face was red from crying, eyes swollen, lashes clumped with ice. In her arms was a small child, wrapped in a thin blanket, sleeping restlessly. "I'm sorry," Ethan said softly, careful not to startle her. Are you okay?" She looked up like she hadn't expected anyone to notice her at all. Her lips trembled. She tried to speak, but no sound came out. Instead, fresh tears spilled over, and she shook her head. Ethan swallowed. "It's freezing out here. Do you need help? I can call someone. A cab. Anyone." She wiped her face with the back of her glove and finally found her voice. I missed the last bus," she whispered. "And my phone, it died." Her eyes dropped to the child in her arms. "He's been sick all day. I just needed to get him home." Ethan glanced at the empty road, the snow falling harder now. He imagined the warmth of the restaurant behind him, the candles still burning for no one. Then he looked at the child, pale cheeks, tiny fingers curled weakly into the blanket. "How far do you live?" he asked. She hesitated. "About 20 minutes. Walking. In this weather, it might as well have been an hour." Without thinking, before fear or logic could interrupt, Ethan shrugged off his coat and draped it gently over the child. The woman gasped. "No, you'll freeze." "I'll be fine," he said. And for the first time all night, he meant it. She stared at him, stunned. "Why would you do that?" Ethan didn't have a perfect answer. Maybe because his date never showed up. Maybe because loneliness recognized loneliness. Or maybe because sometimes the worst nights put us exactly where we're needed. "Because you shouldn't be alone out here," he said simply. Snow continued to fall around them, thick and silent, wrapping the moment in something fragile and sacred. The woman pulled the coat tighter around her son, her hands shaking, not just from cold now, but from emotion. "My name is Lily," she said quietly. "Ethan." They stood there for a second longer, strangers connected by a missed bus, a missed date, and a night that refused to go as planned. Ethan glanced down the street, then back at her. "I have a car around the corner," he said. "Let me take you home." Lily's eyes widened. Fear flickered there, then exhaustion drowned it out. "Okay," she whispered. As they started walking together through the snow, Ethan felt something shift deep inside him. He didn't know it yet, but the night that broke his expectations was about to change his life forever. And somewhere behind them, a candle burned out, unseen. The moment Ethan opened his car door, Lily hesitated, because trusting a stranger in the middle of a snowstorm takes more courage than love ever does. Snow hammered the windshield as if warning them both, this is the point of no return. Ethan didn't know it yet, but this short drive would undo everything he thought he understood about loss. The heater roared to life, warm air flooding the car. Lily cradled her son closer, shielding him instinctively, even as relief softened her shoulders for the first time that night. The child stirred, coughing lightly, his small body trembling under the blanket and Ethan's coat. Ethan adjusted the rearview mirror, deliberately slow, deliberately calm, anything to make her feel safe. "You can sit in the back if you'd like," he said gently. "Whatever's more comfortable." She nodded, grateful, sliding into the back seat. Snow clung to her boots, melting into small puddles on the floor mat. Ethan pulled away from the curb, the city fading behind them as streetlights blurred into gold streaks through the storm. For a few minutes, there was only the sound of the heater and the rhythmic scrape of the wipers. "I really am grateful," Lily said softly. "I know how this must look." Ethan glanced at her in the mirror. "It looks like someone trying to get her kid home." Her jaw tightened at that, like no one had ever said it that simply before. "He's been running a fever," she continued. "The clinic kept us waiting for hours. By the time we left, everything went wrong." Ethan nodded. He didn't ask about the father. Some stories announced their missing chapters without needing to be read aloud. "What's his name?" Ethan asked. "Caleb." As if hearing his name, the boy stirred again. His eyes fluttered open briefly, dark, glassy, unfocused. He looked at Ethan through the mirror, studying him with a seriousness far beyond his years. "Mom?" he whispered. "I'm here, baby," Lily said instantly, brushing snow-damp hair from his forehead. "Go back to sleep." Caleb's gaze shifted back to Ethan. "Is he nice?" The question landed harder than Ethan expected. Lily froze. Ethan swallowed, forcing a smile Caleb could see. "I try to be." Caleb nodded once, satisfied, then drifted back into sleep. Lily pressed her lips together, tears silently gathering again. She turned her face toward the window, pretending to watch the snow, but Ethan saw the way her shoulders shook. "He doesn't trust easily," she whispered. "Neither do I." They drove in silence again, but it was different now, heavier, layered with things neither of them were ready to say. Ethan focused on the road, navigating carefully as the storm worsened. Snow swallowed lane markings, turning the world into a blank page. "Can I ask you something?" Lily said after a while. "Of course. Why were you out so late?" Her tone was cautious, not curious. Protective. Ethan exhaled slowly. "I had a date." Her eyes flicked to the mirror. "Had?" She didn't show. Lily winced. "I'm sorry." Ethan shrugged. "Guess the universe had other plans." She studied him more closely now, his neatly buttoned coat missing, the way he kept both hands steady on the wheel, the quiet sadness he carried without bitterness. "You didn't seem angry back there," she said. "Just disappointed." "I've learned anger doesn't keep you warm," Ethan replied. The car slowed as they turned into a narrow neighborhood street. The houses were older here, paint peeling, porches sagging under snow. Lily pointed ahead. "That one," she said. "Blue door." Ethan pulled to the curb. As soon as the engine cut, the cold rushed back in, sharp and relentless. Lily carefully gathered Caleb, adjusting the blanket and coat around him. "Wait," Ethan said, opening his door. "Let me walk you in. You've already done enough. Please." She didn't argue. The snow reached their ankles as they crossed the short path to the house. Ethan noticed the front steps hadn't been shoveled, like no one had the energy left for small things. Lily fumbled with her keys, hands numb. The door finally opened with a tired creak. Inside was small but clean. A single lamp glowed in the living room. Toys were neatly stacked in a corner. The air smelled faintly of soup and medicine. Ethan hovered near the doorway, unsure of his place. "Thank you," Lily said again, her voice breaking. "For everything." Caleb stirred once more, his eyes opening just enough to see Ethan. "Did he come home with us?" Caleb murmured. Lily smiled sadly. "He helped us get here." Caleb studied Ethan for a long second. Then, in a voice barely louder than the wind outside, he said, "Mom, don't let him go yet." The words hit Ethan like a physical force. Lily froze. Their eyes met, two strangers standing on the edge of something neither could name. Snow continued to fall outside, piling higher against the door. Ethan's phone buzzed in his pocket. A message. From the woman who never showed. But Ethan didn't look at it. Because for the first time that night, he wasn't sure he wanted to. Ethan should have left the moment the door closed behind him. But fate has a way of locking the door when hearts are finally ready to open. Outside, the storm howled louder, as if daring him to walk away now. Inside that small house, a single sentence from a sick child was already rewriting his future. The silence stretched between them, thick and fragile. Lily adjusted Caleb in her arms, her fingers tightening around the blanket as if grounding herself. Ethan stood just inside the doorway, snow melting from his hair onto the worn welcome mat. The lamp cast long shadows on the walls, turning the modest room into something intimate, almost sacred. He's just tired," Lily said quickly, too quickly. "He says things when he's sick." Ethan nodded, though his chest still felt tight. "Of course." But neither of them moved. Caleb shifted again, his breathing uneven. A soft cough escaped his lips, deep enough to make Lily tense instantly. "I need to give him his medicine," she said. Would you like some tea? It's okay if you don't." "I'd like that," Ethan replied. He surprised himself with how sure his voice sounded. She laid Caleb gently on the small couch, brushing his hair back with practiced care. Ethan noticed how everything she did was efficient, learned the hard way. This wasn't her first long night. Or her 10th. In the tiny kitchen, Lily filled the kettle. The hum of the stove filled the room, steady and comforting. "You didn't answer your phone," she said quietly, not turning around. Ethan blinked. "I'm sorry." "It buzzed," she clarified. "When we came in." He hesitated, then took it out, glancing at the screen for the first time. "Hey." I got caught up. "Rain check?" "Rain check." Ethan almost laughed at the irony. He turned the phone face down on the counter. "She wasn't meant to be," Lily said gently, not unkindly. "No," Ethan admitted. "I don't think she was." Lily poured the tea, hands shaking slightly. She wrapped both palms around her mug, as if the warmth alone might hold her together. "You don't have to stay," she said again. "I don't want you feeling obligated." Ethan met her eyes. "I don't." That was the truth, and it scared him. From the couch, Caleb whimpered. Lily rushed over, kneeling beside him. His skin was warm, flushed. "Easy, baby," she whispered. "Mom's here." Ethan watched, something aching deep in his chest. He had seen devotion before, but this was different. This was survival turned into love. "Does he need to go back to the clinic?" Ethan asked carefully. Lily shook her head. "They said the fever should break by morning. Her voice cracked. "I just needed to get him home." She sat on the floor beside the couch, exhausted. The kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. Without asking, Ethan knelt a short distance away, keeping space but staying present. "Can I tell you something?" Lily said after a long moment. "Anything. I wasn't always like this," she said, staring at the floor. "Strong, I mean. I used to rely on people. Trusted easily." Ethan stayed silent, letting her choose the pace. "Caleb's father left when he was 6 months old," she continued. "Said he wasn't ready. Said I was asking for too much." She let out a hollow breath. "So I learned to be enough. For both of us." Ethan felt the weight of her words settle into him. "I'm sorry," he said softly. She shrugged. "I stopped waiting for apologies." Caleb stirred again, eyes opening. He looked between them, confused. "Mom, is he still here?" he asked. "Yes," Lily said instantly. "He's still here." Caleb studied Ethan again, more awake this time. "You look sad." Ethan smiled faintly. "I was." Caleb considered this. "Are you now?" The question disarmed him. Ethan glanced at Lily, then back to Caleb. "Not as much." Caleb nodded, satisfied. He reached out weakly, and without thinking, Ethan let the small hand wrap around his finger. Lily inhaled sharply. Caleb's grip tightened. "Don't disappear," he murmured. Something broke open inside Ethan. "I won't," he said, the promise forming before he realized its weight. The feverish child relaxed, drifting back into sleep, still holding on. Lily wiped her eyes furiously. "He doesn't do that," she whispered. "He doesn't let strangers close." "Maybe he doesn't see me as one," Ethan replied. They sat there together, the storm raging outside, the house wrapped in quiet warmth. Two broken paths crossing in the most unexpected place. Ethan finally stood. "I should probably go," he said reluctantly. "But I'll check in tomorrow. If that's okay." Lily nodded. "I'd like that." As Ethan reached the door, Lily spoke again. "Ethan?" He turned. "Thank you for not walking away tonight." He smiled gently. "Thank you for letting me stay." Outside, the snow had softened, falling slower now, like it had said everything it needed to say. Ethan walked to his car, heart heavier and lighter all at once. Because for the first time in a long time, he wasn't wondering who didn't show up. He was wondering who he might come back for. Ethan told himself he was just checking in, but the truth followed him all the way back to the blue door. Morning light revealed what the snow had hidden, a life held together by quiet courage and unanswered prayers. And inside that small house, a single knock would change everything Lily thought she knew about asking for help. The next morning arrived pale and uncertain, like it wasn't sure it was welcome. Ethan stood across the street, hands buried deep in his pockets, staring at the blue door. Snow from the night before lay in uneven piles along the curb, half melted now, exposing cracked pavement and footprints frozen mid-step. He hadn't slept much. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Caleb's small hand gripping his finger, and heard the words that refused to leave him. "Don't disappear." He hadn't planned to come this early. Or at all, if he was being honest. But he'd woken up with a heaviness in his chest that wouldn't lift until he was standing here. He crossed the street and knocked, softly. Inside, Lily had just finished checking Caleb's temperature for the 3rd time in 10 minutes. It was lower. Not gone, but better. Relief loosened something in her spine she hadn't realized was locked tight. Then the knock came. Her heart leapt, and immediately scolded itself for doing so. She opened the door carefully. Ethan stood there holding a paper bag, snow-damp hair curling slightly at his forehead, eyes tired but warm. "I hope this isn't weird," he said quickly. "I brought soup. And a thermometer. And I may have panicked." Lily blinked. Then laughed, a soft, startled sound she barely recognized as her own. "Come in," she said, stepping aside. The house looked different in daylight. Still small, still worn, but alive. Sunlight filtered through thin curtains. The smell of soup replaced medicine. Caleb sat upright on the couch, wrapped in blankets, clutching a stuffed dinosaur. When he saw Ethan, his face lit up. You came back, Caleb said, certainty in every syllable. Ethan smiled. I said I would. Lily watched the exchange from the doorway, something tight and fragile forming behind her ribs. He's doing better, she said. The fever's breaking. That's good, Ethan replied, visibly relieved. They moved through the kitchen together in an awkward, easy rhythm, like people who didn't know each other well but somehow knew where to stand. Ethan poured soup. Lily found bowls. Their hands brushed once, briefly, and both pretended not to notice. Caleb slurped loudly, then paused. Mom? Yes, baby? Is Ethan coming back again tomorrow? Lily nearly dropped her spoon. Ethan froze, then crouched to Caleb's level. Only if your mom says it's okay. Caleb looked at Lily with the seriousness of someone negotiating something vital. Lily met his gaze, and then Ethan's. I think, she said slowly, that would be okay. Ethan's smile was quiet but unmistakable. As the morning stretched on, something unexpected happened. Not fireworks. Not declarations. Just presence. Ethan fixed a loose cabinet hinge without being asked. Lily folded laundry while telling half-stories about work she never complained about. Caleb fell asleep again, this time peacefully. When Lily finally sat down, exhaustion hit her all at once. I don't do this, she said suddenly. Let people help. Ethan leaned against the counter. You don't have to explain. But I want to, she said. Because if I don't, I might talk myself out of letting this be real. He waited. I've spent so long making sure we're okay, she continued. Not good. Just okay. Depending on someone feels dangerous. Ethan nodded. I know. She studied him. How? He hesitated. I was married. Once. We wanted kids. Tried for years. And when it didn't happen, he exhaled. She left. Said she needed a different life. I'm sorry, Lily whispered. So am I, Ethan said. But I learned something. Loving people isn't what hurts. Losing them is. And that doesn't mean it wasn't worth it. The words settled between them, honest and unpolished. A knock came at the door. Lily stiffened instantly. I'll get it, Ethan said gently, but she was already moving. She opened the door to find her landlord standing there, clipboard in hand, impatience written across his face. You're late on rent, he said flatly. Again. Lily's shoulders fell. I know. I just need a few more days. He sighed. You said that last month. Ethan stepped forward, not confrontational, just present. She's been at the clinic all night, he said calmly. Her son's been sick. The man glanced past him at Caleb, then back at Lily. Something softened, just slightly. 3 days, he said. That's all I can give. When the door closed, Lily leaned against it, eyes shining with unshed tears. I had it, she said quietly. Until the clinic bill. Ethan didn't hesitate. Let me help. No, she said quickly. I can't. You can't, he said softly. And you don't owe me anything. She looked at him then, not as a stranger. Not as a savior. But as a man choosing to stand beside her. Caleb stirred, calling softly. Mom? Lily wiped her eyes and smiled. I'm here. Ethan watched them, heart steady in a way it hadn't been in years. This wasn't a dream date. It wasn't a perfect plan. But as sunlight spilled across the small living room and snow melted quietly outside, Ethan realized something undeniable. This was the beginning of something real. And neither of them knew yet how much it would cost, or how much it would give back. Some love stories don't begin with fireworks, they begin with staying. Weeks later, the snow was gone, but the night it fell still lived quietly in their bones. And when the past finally knocked, Ethan and Lily would learn that love isn't about who shows up first, but who never leaves. Spring came slowly, like it was afraid to rush something so fragile. Ethan became part of the house without ever announcing it. Not every day. Not every night. Just enough to matter. He showed up with groceries when Lily worked late. Fixed the leaky sink that had been, temporary, for 2 years. Sat on the floor building dinosaurs with Caleb, who now greeted him like a certainty rather than a surprise. Lily noticed everything. She noticed how Ethan never overstepped. How he always asked before helping. How he listened, not to fix her, but to understand her. And how, little by little, the tightness she carried everywhere began to loosen. One evening, weeks later, they sat on the porch steps watching Caleb chase fireflies in the yard. "Do you ever think about that night?" Lily asked quietly. "All the time," Ethan said. "I think about how close I was to walking away." She smiled faintly. "I think about how close I was to losing hope." Caleb ran up, breathless. "Ethan! Look!" He opened his hands, releasing a glowing firefly into the dark. Ethan laughed. "You caught the impossible." Caleb grinned. "Mom says impossible things just take longer." Lily froze. Ethan looked at her. "You taught him that?" She nodded. "I had to believe it myself first." The moment might have stayed perfect, if life didn't have a habit of testing joy. The call came 2 days later. Ethan was at work when Lily's name flashed across his phone. Her voice was calm, but too calm. "It's Caleb," she said. "The doctor wants more tests." Ethan didn't ask questions. He left immediately. The hospital room was small, white, too quiet. Lily sat stiffly beside the bed, fingers laced together so tightly her knuckles had gone pale. Caleb slept, wires attached, the steady beep of the monitor cutting through the silence. "They think it's something congenital," Lily whispered. "Something they missed before." Fear, real fear, rose up in Ethan's chest. The kind that asks for nothing but honesty. "I'm here," he said. She shook her head. "This isn't your responsibility." Ethan crouched in front of her. "Lily, look at me." She did. "I know what it means to love something you might lose," he said softly. "And I also know what it means to face that alone. I'm not going to let you." Her eyes filled instantly. "You don't have to." "I want to." The test took hours. Then days. Waiting became their new routine. They took turns sleeping in the chair. Took turns being strong. And one night, when exhaustion finally cracked her, Lily whispered the truth she'd been holding back. "I'm terrified," she said. "Not of losing him, of surviving it." Ethan reached for her hand. "You won't survive it alone." Caleb's diagnosis, when it came, was serious, but treatable. Long-term care. Monitoring. A life that would require patience, money, and resilience. Lily cried anyway. Not from despair, but from relief. Weeks later, on a clear afternoon, Ethan took Lily back to the cafe. The same one. The same table. "I didn't want this place to be a ghost," he said. She smiled, eyes shining. "Funny. I didn't want it to be either." They sat. Ordered coffee. Let silence exist without fear. "I was stood up here," Ethan said. "That night." "I know," Lily replied gently. "I thought it meant I wasn't chosen." She reached across the table. "You were. Just not by the person you expected." He laughed softly, then grew serious. "Lily, I don't want to be someone who visits your life. I want to be someone who builds one with you. With both of you." She didn't answer immediately. She stood instead, walked around the table, and kissed him, slow, sure, real. "I was waiting for you," she said against his forehead. "I just didn't know it yet." That evening, back at the house, Caleb watched them from the couch, suspicious. "You're smiling the same," he said. Ethan knelt. "Is that bad?" Caleb thought hard. Then shook his head. "No. It means you're staying." Ethan looked at Lily. She nodded. "Yes," she said. "He's staying." Later that night, after Caleb fell asleep, Lily found Ethan standing by the window, watching the quiet street. "You okay?" she asked. He turned to her. "I almost missed all this," Because I was focused on someone who didn't show up. Lily slipped her hand into his. Sometimes the best things arrive when plans fall apart. Outside, snow from months ago existed only in memory. But its gift remained. Because one missed date led to a mother in the cold, a child who believed in impossible things, and a man who finally learned. Love doesn't knock loudly. It waits patiently. And when you open the door, it changes everything.